The fallout from a fatal federal shooting in Minneapolis is accelerating, and it is now reshaping law enforcement leadership, federal-state relations, and the political response inside the White House itself. Less than 48 hours after a 37-year-old ICU nurse was shot and killed by a Border Patrol agent, a top federal commander is being pulled out of the city. His social media access has been cut off. Federal and state investigators are locked in open conflict. And President Donald Trump has sent his most powerful immigration enforcer directly to Minnesota. This is no longer a single use-of-force case. It has become a national test of power, accountability, and trust, and whether federal authorities can police themselves when the stakes turn political. Before we rewind to how this all began, it's important to understand where things stand right now. As of Monday night, Gregory Bovino, the Border Patrol commander who became the face of the federal operation in Minneapolis, is expected to leave the city within hours. Several agents under his command are also being reassigned. The Department of Homeland Security insists Bovino has not been fired or relieved of duty, but his sudden removal from Minneapolis signals a major shift. At the same time, DHS has suspended Bovino's access to his social media accounts, following days of inflammatory posts, online clashes with critics, and unsubstantiated claims about the man who was killed. Meanwhile, President Trump has dispatched border czar Tom Homan to take over enforcement operations in the city personally. Trump has spoken directly with both Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. According to both leaders, the president acknowledged that the situation on the ground cannot continue as it has. Those developments alone tell you how fast this case has escalated. Now let's go back to Saturday morning, and to the moment everything changed. Early Saturday, during what federal officials described as a routine enforcement operation, Border Patrol agents encountered Alex Preddy in Minneapolis. Preddy was a U.S. citizen. He was 37 years old. He worked as an ICU nurse at the Minneapolis VA Medical Center, caring for critically ill patients, many of them military veterans. During that encounter, Preddy was shot and killed by a federal agent. Within hours, federal authorities released a brief explanation. They said the shooting was justified. They said the agent acted in self-defense. And they said Preddy had brandished a firearm. What they did not release were the details. No body camera footage. No full timeline. No forensic explanation. No clarification of commands given, distance, or threat level. That lack of transparency became the spark. As the day unfolded, multiple videos from different angles began circulating publicly. Analysts and legal experts reviewing the footage raised serious questions about the federal narrative. In at least one video, an officer appears to remove a firearm from Preddy immediately before shots are fired, contradicting claims that he had actively threatened agents with a weapon. Despite these contradictions, federal agencies declined to clarify their statements. That silence mattered, because in Minnesota, officer-involved shootings follow a well-established process. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension typically leads investigations, even when federal officers are involved, working in coordination with the FBI. That system exists to preserve public trust. But in this case, it broke down almost immediately. According to sworn court filings, state investigators arrived at the scene within an hour of the shooting, before even the FBI. They expected access to the area, evidence, and witnesses. Instead, they were blocked. Federal agents secured the perimeter and denied state investigators entry. The FBI took possession of key evidence, including Alex Preddy's phone and the firearm recovered at the scene. Minnesota officials say they were effectively shut out of their own investigation. As hours passed, the standoff intensified. By late Saturday morning, Minnesota authorities went to court to obtain a warrant simply to access the crime scene. A judge granted it. Even then, according to the state, federal agents still refused to allow full access. That extraordinary breakdown triggered the next escalation. Minnesota sued the Trump administration. A federal judge granted a temporary restraining order preventing the Department of Homeland Security from destroying, altering, or mishandling any evidence related to Preddy's death. The order was blunt and rare. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison did not mince words. He said he has zero trust in DHS. Ellison questioned why a department would preserve evidence in a case where it insists no wrongdoing occurred. He warned that without court oversight, evidence could be compromised or selectively controlled. A hearing on whether to extend that restraining order ended Monday without an immediate ruling, but the judge said a decision would come swiftly. As the legal fight unfolded, political pressure exploded. Gregory Bovino, the Border Patrol commander overseeing the Minneapolis operation, became a lightning rod. Over the weekend, Bovino used his social media accounts to aggressively defend the shooting. He accused Preddy of assaulting officers. He shared mugshots of immigrants arrested by his agents. He mocked critics and lawmakers, and he inserted himself directly into the public narrative, often contradicting what video evidence appeared to show. By Monday, DHS suspended his social media access entirely. And by Monday night, sources confirmed Bovino was being pulled out of the city. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara publicly welcomed the move, saying Bovino's actions had not been helpful and expressing hope that his departure would de-escalate tensions. O'Hara described Bovino driving through neighborhoods with a law enforcement convoy, stopping in the city and, in his words, shaking things up during an already volatile moment. Outside, protests continued. Inside government, confidence eroded. And that's when the White House intervened directly. President Donald Trump sent Border Czar Tom Homan to Minnesota to take control of enforcement operations. Trump spoke personally with Governor Tim Walz, later saying they were on a similar wavelength. He also spoke with Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. Frey said the president agreed that the current situation cannot continue. That statement marked a notable shift from confrontation to damage control. Frey confirmed he plans to meet with Homan, while making clear that Minneapolis will cooperate with legitimate criminal investigations but will not participate in unconstitutional arrests or federal immigration enforcement actions targeting residents. Trump, posting on Truth Social, called the conversation very good and said progress was being made. But the political fallout is far from contained. In Congress, the case is reshaping debates over federal power and accountability. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is scheduled to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee on March 3rd. Her appearance comes amid a contentious fight over DHS funding and newly negotiated oversight measures for ICE and Customs and Border Protection. Noem has defended the agents involved in Preddy's shooting, repeating claims that he brandished a firearm, even as video evidence continues to raise doubts. Minnesota Senator Tina Smith has gone further. She announced she will block a government spending bill, citing deep concerns about the credibility of a federal investigation in which DHS is effectively investigating itself. Smith said it is highly unusual and deeply troubling for state investigators to be blocked from an officer-involved shooting scene. She warned that public trust collapses when accountability appears internal and opaque. Her question echoes far beyond Minnesota. How can a department investigate its own officers and still expect to be believed? Public reaction has been swift and emotional. A verified GoFundMe campaign for Alex Preddy's family has raised more than $1.4 million from over 35,000 donors. The funds are intended to support his loved ones with immediate and long-term needs. Colleagues have spoken publicly about who Preddy was. Doctors who worked alongside him at the VA Medical Center described him as deeply compassionate, especially toward veterans. One mentor said he connected naturally with vulnerable patients and truly believed in helping people. Others described him as civically engaged, someone who believed in peaceful protest and standing up for neighbors and community. One woman whose father Preddy cared for during a severe illness said his kindness left a lasting impact in just days. She said it was maddening to see him labeled a threat after his death. And she said something many Americans are now feeling. We are being lied to. As protests continue, the courts are also weighing how far federal agents can go. On Monday, a federal appeals court declined to reinstate a lower court order that would have limited federal agents' ability to arrest peaceful protesters or stop vehicles without cause during Operation Metro Surge. The ruling was a victory for the Trump administration, but not unanimous. One judge dissented in part, arguing that restrictions on the use of pepper spray and non-lethal weapons against peaceful protesters should remain in place. That unresolved legal tension adds another layer to an already combustible situation. This case is no longer just about what happened on a Minneapolis street. It is about federal authority versus state sovereignty, about evidence control and public trust, about whether accountability exists when power is centralized and scrutiny intensifies. As Gregory Bovino leaves Minneapolis and Tom Homan arrives, the questions are only getting louder. Who controls the narrative? Who controls the evidence? And who answers when a U.S. citizen is killed during a federal operation? This story is far from over. If you want continued, fact-based coverage as this case unfolds, in the courts, on the streets, and inside the halls of power, subscribe to Coded News. Because when enforcement, politics, and human life collide, the truth matters more than ever.